mentioned,
I'm recording. Sorry. Go ahead.
oh, no problem. No problem. As Royal mentioned, I'm the owner of Access DNA Labs, AXISDNA.com is our website. And basically, Access kind of grew out of the need for us to expand our original operation, which was Birmingham DNA Center. Birmingham DNA Center was our original company that we started back in 2015. It was a location here in Birmingham, my hometown. And as that business grew, I decided to try to venture out and see if I could open up another location, see if I can have some of the same success in another city or another market area. So I opened up the location in Atlanta, and the Atlanta location started to do pretty well for us. And we called that one Atlanta DNA Center. And so as we continue to open future locations, we would name them after the city in which we opened. But what I came to realize was that it started to become too cumbersome for us to maintain a separate phone number, web presence, website, marketing, everything for each of those locations. So we decided to come up with one sort of general name for the company, which is now known as Access DNA Labs. And so now when we open new locations, we call them Access DNA Labs of Birmingham, Access DNA Labs of Atlanta, Access DNA Labs of whatever the city is. And by doing that, I can maintain one website for accessdna.com. But we can kind of still market ourselves across different cities using that one website instead of having to create multiple websites for all the different locations. So, but yeah, I mean, we started in 2015, and I actually got the idea from a friend of mine who started one out in Denver, Colorado. She started, I think, back in 2012, and she got the idea from a cousin of hers who was already in the business in Texas, and so he turned her on to it. She started. She was not a business person. She was more of a marketing whiz. And so she didn't know how, she had never started a business or didn't know how to run a business, but she knew everything there was to know about marketing. So she called me and asked me to help her start this business. And I asked her, what's the business about? And she said, well, it's about DNA testing. I said, okay, well, I didn't know anything about DNA testing, but I knew about starting and owning and operating businesses, which is something I've done for the last 25 years. So long story short, I helped her start her business. It blew up. A couple of years later, after I saw how well her business was doing out in Denver, Colorado, I said, hey, you know what? I think I want to start that same business in Birmingham. So she helped me launch my business. She turned me on to all of her laboratory contacts. She helped me with my marketing, which was, in my opinion, the most important part of this business. And then we launched our business in 2015. And then from there, I kind of, once I established the template and figured it all out with the Birmingham location, I was able to launch these other locations in Montgomery, Atlanta, and Charlotte. And we're in the process of looking at launching 3 other locations this year. So that's basically my story in a nutshell. So I've been in the business now for a total of 7 years. We're just trying to see how far we can take it and how high we can take this thing.
Yeah, perfect, Donald. So, a lot of the folks on here, well, all of them except for me, are new to the DNA. I mean, I'm newer than you. I've been in for 17 months. You've been in for 7 years. A lot of the folks that are dialed in have just started their business maybe a few months ago. Just for motivation purposes, as well as if you give some marketing tips too. What was your kind of stair step income in the business since you started in 2015 up until recently, like the last time we spoke? What was kind of that income that you were getting, and what were some of the challenges you faced?
Yeah, so I think initially it's just like with any other business out here, any other small business that we start, you're trying to figure out, okay, like everybody knows how to purchase a domain name. Everybody pretty much knows how to create a website. They have companies out here now where you can do it yourself, or you can hire a professional company to do it. So everybody knows how to get a website launched some kind of way. But once you have that domain name and that website, the big question is, now, how do I get my phone to ring? Okay. How do I get my phone to ring? Because otherwise, what are you doing? You just got to, otherwise you just have a website out there. How do I get customers to find out about me? And most importantly, how do I get these customers to call my phone? And so, again, I didn't know how to do that. I'm not going to say that I would be as successful as I think we've been over the last 7 years, if I didn't know someone who knew how to put together the marketing for the business. So, so when we first started out, I think, Royal, I want to say we did probably $30,000 in sales in the first year, and then maybe the second year we did 60,000. What I noticed, Royal, is that with each passing year, as our business grew and as we added additional locations, our income doubled exponentially. So I think year one was like I said, 28, 30,000. Year two might have been 60,000. Year three was 120,000. Year four was roughly 240, 250,000. Last year, fast forward to last year, and again, I'm guessing, I don't have numbers in front of me, but I'm just kind of giving you some estimates on how the business has grown over the years. But last year, I think we did about $365,000 gross across the 4 locations. Most of that came primarily from 3 locations, but because the Charlotte location is really more of a pay for itself kind of location. We have not really fully implemented the marketing in that location as of yet. So really the bulk of that came from the Birmingham, Atlanta, Montgomery triangle of locations. But yeah, about $365,000 gross sales last year, 2021, is where we currently stand. And I'm expecting or hoping this year we'll breach the $700,000 mark with the current locations, and hopefully with whatever other 2 or 3 locations we can bring online this year over the next few months. Wow. So, but again, we didn't achieve those numbers without aggressive marketing. And so when I say aggressive marketing, I mean everything from knowing how to keyword your website, knowing how to fully optimize your search engine optimization, knowing how to connect your website to your advertisements in Google, knowing how to set up the analytics, because anytime you do anything in Google, Google wants you to connect your Google ad, your Google business listing, your Google Maps, all that stuff. They want you to connect that stuff directly to your website. And so they give you these codes and these numbers, and there's a place on your website where you can plug in these codes and these numbers so that your website's talking to Google and Google's talking to your website. And the more you do that, the more you plug into Google or whatever search engine you're dealing with, Bing or whatever you're using, the more you plug into it, I've noticed the more they favor you when it comes to the searches. So you find yourself climbing up faster and higher on the search engine. So we're on the first page, I think, pretty much of every search at this point. Top of the page in 2 or 3 different places, on the map, on the advertisement, on the sponsored ad link, in all the different places on the top page. And it's because of not only the money we spend on Google Ads, but also I think the way we've connected ourselves to Google. And again, it took my friend, who is more of a marketing whiz than I am, to kind of help me, pull all that together and show me the importance of that. Because if not for her, I probably wouldn't be doing as well as we're doing, because I wouldn't know how to market myself effectively. So I say all that to say that it really takes, marketing is the key to this business. Marketing is the key to any business. Because again, if you don't have the effective marketing in place, you're really just a website in search of customers.
So one question is, why did you, and I say this to my students, but why did you want to focus on one city at a time first instead of trying to cover the whole country at one time?
I think the ultimate goal, Royal, is to cover the whole country. But I think with me, I'm always trying to find ways to polish up and to make my business model more effective. And so I feel like with me, I have not found the perfect business model yet, believe it or not, even though I've been in the business for 7 years now, all together. I feel like I have not found the perfect business model yet. And you and I have talked about this, and this is why you're working on the project you're working on with the application platform that
Mhm.
you've been working on. Um, I've always been a big believer of streamlining the business and making it as automated as possible. Because the more you streamline it, the more automated it is, the less physical hands-on work I have to do as the business owner, and the less I have to be on the front lines of the business. And so until I can get my business model fully automated, fully streamlined to where it's basically just kind of just completely fluid and flowing like water, um, it's going to be difficult for me to see my way clear to just launch nationwide, um, because I feel like I'll be launching nationwide with sort of a half-ass business template. If you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that day is not far away.
Right.
I'm just saying that I'm just trying to get to that point to where the office flows are so, are so like up to par that, once I feel like everything's automatic, then I'll feel more comfortable about launching. I guess you have to get it to the point of like a franchise, right? Once
Yeah.
once you get it to the point where you can take that model and give it to anybody or sell it to anybody and they can do the same thing and you don't have to go stand in their store to make sure they're doing it right, then you feel comfortable launching and going nationwide.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, getting your foundation right first, getting all your SOPs, all that squared away in your automation. So you had a location that you said you had to shut down. What location
Correct.
was that and why was that?
Okay. So actually there have been two. So the first location that we opened that we ended up closing, we opened a location in Hoover, Alabama, which is basically a suburb of Birmingham. And by definition, that is primarily the reason that we shut it down. We found that Birmingham as a city, um, it's a large city. It's probably 250,000 people within city limits, probably a million people throughout the entire Birmingham metro area or whatever. But what we found is Birmingham was big enough to support one location, but not necessarily two locations. Not at least not in the sense that you and I are doing our type of businesses. So when we opened that location in Hoover, we thought maybe because Hoover was a suburb, it was still a separate town. And so we thought because it was a separate town that it would be able to support its own location. Maybe people in Hoover didn't want to drive to 10 or 15, 20 minutes, whatever it was, to come over to the Birmingham office. Well, we found that that wasn't the case. We found that we have people driving all the way into Birmingham from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, which is like 45 minutes away, Huntsville, Alabama, which is like an hour away. We've even had people drive up from Montgomery and even Birmingham, which are like, an hour and 3 hours away, respectively. So a Hoover location just ultimately didn't make sense for us because it was too close to our Birmingham location. And it was literally like a 10 or 15 extra minute drive for somebody from Hoover to get over to Birmingham.
Mm.
And so it just wasn't justified. Now, we also opened a Mobile office down in Mobile, Alabama, which is about 3.5 to 4 hours away from Birmingham. And the reason we shut that location down, what we did was we shut down the physical location, but we left the marketing up and running, the internet marketing up and running, but we shut down the physical location. And so now when we get calls from Mobile clients, we offer them non-invasive prenatal paternity testing uh, um, at their residence. We'll come to their residence and do the test. but we don't operate a physical location down there. The reason we shut it down was because we found the Mobile market to be a very flaky market. We would set countless appointments and people just simply would not show up. And people, I mean, it was so bad that we would call and confirm all of the appointments an hour or 2 hours prior to the appointment. And even with those confirmation calls and the customer client saying, yeah, I'm on my way, I'll be there, yeah, whatever. At the moment of the appointment, they wouldn't show up. And then when you call them and say, hey, where are you? Are you guys here? You guys on the way? Phones will be turned off, disconnected. It was so frustrating. But we knew it got really bad in Mobile when we got to the point that our phlebotomists and our specimen collectors that we hired to do the work for us down there, when they started flaking out and not showing up for appointments. So now you got customers waiting at the Mobile office for their appointment, but the phlebotomist was not there, or we call her and say, hey, the customer's there, and she say, oh, I didn't see the appointment, or I'm not available today, or whatever. And so now you got customers who are flaking out on you, and then you got staff people who are flaking out on you, and it was just a recipe for disaster. So we decided we're not going to spend any more money on the Mobile market. We would just pull out of there, and if customers still wanted our services and they wanted them really bad, either they would drive up to Birmingham, or we would just, like I said, offer the nip test, and we would offer to come to their residence. If they want it bad enough, they'll pay us for it.
Got it. One more question from me, Donald, and then I'll open up the floor for anybody who has a question for you. So what test or what service are you focusing on now for your locations? And why are you focusing on trying to market that test specifically?
So right now we are focused on the non-invasive prenatal paternity test. That's been our focus now for the last couple of years, last 2 years, I would say. The reason for the non-invasive prenatal paternity test is because historically over the last couple of years, it's been our biggest profit center. We average anywhere between $400 and $500 in gross profit from that test. So if we sell a $1,500 test, we're making $500, $400 to $500 on that test. And that's across all different options. If we do the $1,300 test, the $1,500 test, or the $1,700 test, whichever one we sell, we're still making between $400 and $500 on that test. And so we're focused right now on that test because of the profit margin on it. I think our second highest profit margin test is the legal paternity test, just a standard legal father-child paternity test. I think the profit on margin on that one is maybe $200, $225, something like that. Mm-hmm. So the non-invasive prenatal paternity test profit margin doubles that profit margin. And so that's where our focus is. And we've had a lot of good success with it. For some reason, we just, when we shifted our marketing, our online marketing, our Google ads to more of a focus on the non-invasive prenatal paternity test, we started getting a lot of calls and realized that there's a huge market out there for that test. Or I should say there's a lot of interest for that test. Now, Of course, the cost of that test can be prohibitive for a lot of people, but for the ones who do have the money, or for the ones who can go out there and find the money, it's worth it to them, and obviously it's worth it to us. So we've shifted most of our marketing to the non-invasive test. We'll still do all of the other tests as well, but we try to focus on the non-invasive prenatal paternity test.
Got it. Yeah, kind of the same for us. Like 7 out of the 10 calls that we get are for NIP tests, and then we realize that we're the only company to offer NIP tests within a 600-mile radius on this side of Texas. So, as long as we continue to offer good service, we kind of got it on lock until somebody wants to compete. So I'm going to open up the floor. Anybody that has a question for Donald, like I said, he's super cool. He's really approachable. He was the only dude that answered the phone when I was like, please, can somebody help me try to figure out this damn business? He was the only one. So anybody, y'all can take ourselves off of mute. What's up?
Roy,
yeah.
Roy, before we take the first question,
I
want to mention something about that, which you just mentioned. The reason I did that, man, was because when I first started my first business back in 1995, which was a check cashing business down in Montgomery, Alabama, I could not find anybody to give me any information about the business. I didn't feel comfortable going to other people in my market area who were in that business already and asking them questions because I knew they would view me as competition. And I went to a convention for the National Convention of Check Cashers, and before I opened my business. And when I was there, I bumped into a lot of people who were in the business, and I ultimately ran up on this guy who was down in Florida, and he had like 7 or 8 locations in Florida. And I just point blank asked him, I said, "Hey man, do you mind if I, come down to Florida and visit with you and maybe shadow you a little bit in the business?" I'm really looking forward to going to this business, but I'm a little scared because I feel like I don't have enough all of the information that I need to have to open my doors to this business. I can't find anybody to talk to. And the guy was very warm, very inviting. He said, "Absolutely." He said, "Just give me a call. We'll set up a time and a day for you to come down, and I'll be happy to share with you whatever you wanna know." And so I took him up on that. I booked an airline ticket and a hotel room. I went down and flew down there and met with that guy. He and his wife out to dinner, and the guy took me to his main location, his main check cashing location down in Boca Raton, Florida, somewhere. And he said, "Man, look, just ask whatever questions you want. This is the manager of the store. These are my file cabinets over here. Make copies of anything you want to make copies of.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, he just opened everything up for me. And but for that guy being so generous with his time, energy, um, in helping me and showing me some of the ropes, um, I probably would have had a hard time in that check cashing business. But because I was able to meet with him and get some pointers from him and learn how to do some things that I didn't know how to do, I was able to avoid a lot of mistakes, had a lot of success with that business, and was in that business for about 10 years before I was able to sell it to a national competitor and do pretty well with that. So that's why when you reached out, I didn't have a problem speaking to you because I know how hard it is when you're out here just trying to get information from people who are in the business as well. And I know how it is. So
Yeah.
I just want to say that.
Thank you, man. Like I said, a lot of those DNA agencies, man, they're like faceless and nameless. Like, it's very difficult. They're like, why would I want to talk to you? So anyway,
Right.
I'm gonna open up the floor. Anybody that has a question for Donald, feel free. Don't let me ask all the questions. And then after these questions, we'll go ahead and get into some sales call stuff where I'll act like a client. Donald, if you want to stick on for that and see the students kind of go through their sales call stuff, feel free if you want to. So anybody got a question? Feel free. I'll put myself on mute for a second.
Or if you don't want to verbally ask a question, you can chat it. You can chat the question to Royal, and he can read the question.
Let me see. There you go, Raphael. There you go.
All right. Hi, Donald. So I have a location out here in Boston, and I'm kind of having one of the same problems you were having with the phlebotomists. I can't really find that many reliable phlebotomists. Like in all of around Boston, there's like 2 or 3 phlebotomists, and the rates are kind of ridiculous. So like when I ran my last prenatal test, it cut my profit margins down 50%. So I was like, is that even worth it at this point? Even running these mobile tests, because there's no really walk-in centers for phlebotomists around me.
Right.
So I'm just struggling on that point and just thinking like, would it be better to kind of scale out of the marketing for prenatals and kind of focus mainly on siblingships or like legals?
Yeah. So again, I focus on NIP, but that's because the markets that I've been operating in have been good to me on NIP. Okay. That doesn't mean that NIP is good for everybody. Okay. And I got a friend of mine, in fact, my friend out there in Denver, I talk to her just about every day, every other day, because we always compare notes and exchange notes and stuff like that. One of her focuses, oddly enough, is immigration testing. She does a lot of NIP too, and she agrees that NIP is a big profit center. But one of her focuses is immigration testing. She does a lot of immigration stuff, and I think she actually puts out a lot of marketing on immigration testing, and she likes to do it, and I guess she makes good money doing it. So, and it is a huge business. We've done some immigration testing. We probably would do more if I focus a lot of more of our marketing on immigration. But we've done a few, and they are pretty. I mean, they're pretty easy to do. They're just like doing a standard legal paternity test. But you know, so it just, you know, I think I talked to Royal's mom, and I think she told me one of her favorite tests to do are deceased father tests. She does a lot of deceased father testing, specifically the ones where she actually goes to the funeral home and collects the specimen sample herself from the decedent. So if you're having a hard time with phlebotomists in your area in Boston, then maybe just kind of see what other product or what other test out there you would have better luck with. You just got to try. You kind of have to offer everything and see what you end up doing the most of. And you know, and that's kind of how you figure out what your niche should be. But don't get discouraged. Like I said, it's just, you know, I mean, and everything is different. Everybody's different. Phlebotomists around the nation are different. I think we pay anywhere between $65 and $85 for our phlebotomists, for all the phlebotomists that we're using. We may pay a little bit more than that, 100, 120 if they have to go travel. But typically, if they have to go travel to meet with the client, I charge the client an extra trip charge. And then I just, you know, that way I'm able to you know, recoup some of the extra money I'm having to pay the phlebotomist to go out there. So, because I try to keep my profit margins on that test a steady, you know, $400 to $500. In fact, I typically do not do a prenatal unless I'm making at least $400 on it. But yeah, just try different things, man, and see if there's something else that may stick. And just, you know, and just kind of go from there. That would be my one piece of advice on that.
The thing is, Donald, and Raphael hadn't said this, he's only been in business for a month and he's done 7 tests already in a month.
7 prenatals?
No, just 7.
No, 7.
Oh, 7 tests. Okay.
Yeah. So he
mostly non-legals.
Yeah. He has plenty of time to figure out what his market really wants.
Yeah.
Let me touch on that for a second. So yeah, when you guys first get in business, you're not going to knock it out the box in the first month. Okay. You may not even knock out the box in the first 3 months, maybe even not even the first 6 months. Okay. The DNA business is just like every other business. I mean, if you're fortunate, you may reach profitability by the end of the first year. Okay. But it's just like with every other business, there's a good chance that you may not see profitability until after year 1 or even year 2. So the idea is to try to minimize and mitigate your expenses as much as, or I should say, control your expenses as much as possible during that first year, those first 2 years, while you try to build the business up. Just be real smart with your expenses and be real smart with your marketing. And you should be able to get out, you know, do okay in that first year without losing your shirt.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Raphael. Anybody else got a question? Question for Donald? I saw Serge. I saw you just come in. I know you Serge, you always have great questions. So
Serge is muted. He needs to unmute.
Serge is
muted.
Okay.
Well, I guess, how do you, like, so you're doing about $400 in profit for each prenatal test. So what are you charging? Because
no problem. Yeah, so on the Ravgen 9-week test, I charge $13.95. I used to charge $12.95, but Ravgen just raised their fees by $100, so I had to raise my price by $100. So I charge $13.95 on that. I think my Ravgen lab fee on that is $900, I think. So I make $495 on that one before the phlebotomist. After I pay my phlebotomist, I'm just over $400 on that one.
Okay.
And then for the 1-week test with Ravgen or the 1-week test with DDC, I charge $15.95. Okay. The lab fees on both, I think with both labs for me are the same. I think they're both $1,100. So 1595, 1100. What's that? 595 or 495? Excuse me, 495 on that one as well. And then on the 3 to 5 day, I think we make an extra 100 on the 3 to 5 day test through DDC because I charge $17.95 on that, but my fee to DDC is $1,200. So so that's kind of how I price mine, and people seem to be paying it. There are some people that don't want to pay that much, or they say they can find it cheaper somewhere else. But I mean, that's kind of what the market can bear down here in Birmingham and in Atlanta at my main locations.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
do you do payment plans for people or no?
I do the half and half payment plan across the board on the non-invasive test. So I do half and half. So on the $13.95 test, you pay $6.97 at the appointment. You pay $6.97 when the test results are ready. You got to pay your balance off before you get your test results. We don't give out anybody's test results before they pay their balance off.
Same thing with the DDC test too.
Yeah. Which any of the prenatal tests is half and half.
Okay.
I take the chance that they're going to pay the test off, and plus with DDC, I'm not set up for automatic draft with them. I'm set up to where I pay them manually. So with DDC, I don't pay them until after I collect my balance from my customer. So I make sure I have my money in hand for my customer before I pay DDC. But and the same with Ravgen. I do that with both of them. We collect our money first, and then we pay the lab. But yeah, that's the only payment plan we offer. Like my friend in Denver, she does $500 down flat, regardless of how much your prenatal test costs. She'll do $500 down, and then you just pay the balance, whatever that is, when your test results are ready. So if it's a $1,500 test, they pay $500 down. They have to pay $1,000 before they get their test results. So that's just the way she does it. She seems to have success with it and hadn't run into too many problems with that. Whatever your payment plan is, you can make it whatever you want. There are also some finance companies out there, or so I should say some merchant services providers out there, like Square and a couple other people. I think they offer financing, like short-term financing for sales. Like they'll let you set a customer up with like a, the customer can buy something. They'll pay you all your money, but they'll let the customer finance it out over the next 6 months. If you want to get signed up for that, We actually offered that at one time, but we didn't have any customers to bite on it. Nobody wanted to sign up for it because it was basically like applying for a new credit card. Nobody wanted to take on new credit.
Gotcha. Okay. What about expanding into new areas? Like when did you think about expanding into new areas?
I'm always thinking about it. It's just a matter. Again, it's a lot of work that goes into it because you got to set the marketing up. You got to set up the location. You got to set up the website. You got to, So I'm always thinking about it. So I recently just launched, or did a pre-launch, I should say, in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm also about to do a pre-launch in Jacksonville, Florida. Those are our two next markets that we're looking at. And I'm there's no rhyme or reason really to these markets. I'm really just kind of looking at the largest cities in all of the states. I look at the largest city in that state, and then I try my luck there. Especially if that city has several locations of Any Lab Test Now or several locations of ArcPoint Labs, which are the two largest franchises. I think Fastest Labs is one as well. So if they can support, one or two or three locations of those franchises, then that to me sounds like it might be a pretty decent market to open up a location of my own.
Okay, that makes sense.
So in essence, I kind of let those franchises do the feasibility study for me, and I just kind of piggyback off their feasibility study.
That's a really good idea. I like that.
Oh, Nika said she's in Jacksonville.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's all good. It's money out here for everybody.
I had a question also.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you locations, are they physical, like walk into, or how do they work your locations?
Yeah, so basically what I do, what I've done with the locations we currently have, the Birmingham, Atlanta, Montgomery, Charlotte, we actually have physical locations. I tend to gravitate toward Regis offices, Regis virtual offices, or Regis virtual office suite. I start off with Regis with a virtual office, and then as the business grows, I upgrade to a co-share space, which is basically an office. It's a workstation inside of an office room with 2 or 3 other workstations, and there are other businesses at those other workstations. So let me back up a little bit. So the virtual office typically runs, I should say the mailbox typically runs about 80 to 100 bucks. And then your virtual office is going to run you about 189 to 200 bucks. And then you upgrade to the co-share space, which runs you anywhere from 250 to 350 a month. Okay. And then as you continue to grow, you may find yourself needing your own private office, which we currently have our own private office in Birmingham, and we're about to probably do one in Atlanta. And that's probably going to run you between $500 and $800 a month. And so I do Regis because Regis has flexibility in terms of the office footprint that you have. You can start off with a mailbox, you can start off with a virtual office, and then as your needs expand, you can grow your office space in mid lease term. So you don't have to fulfill a full lease term to upgrade. You do have to fulfill a full lease term if you want to downgrade, but to upgrade, they'll let you break your lease and you can go into a new lease on an upgraded space if you like. And so
that actually helps a lot.
yeah. So I tend to use Regis because I can better control my expenses that way. And again, with this business, as you guys know, the last thing you want to do is go out there and go out to some high-end shopping center and pay $3, $4, $5,000 a month for a storefront space, because you don't need it. You're not gonna, you want to. In fact, you're really not going to need a full-time space or a full-time employee probably for a while. I mean, I still don't have in any of my locations, even my Atlanta location, which is now our flagship location, I still don't have a full-time space and a full-time employee. Everything we do is by appointment only. Everything we do is by appointment only. And we may do, anywhere from 2 to 5 to 10 appointments a day at the Atlanta location. We probably do 10 to 15 appointments a week at the Birmingham office. But none of those locations are full-time offices, and we don't employ any full-time people. Everybody that works for us is an independent contractor who comes in by appointment only. And so by doing that, and so I pay them per appointment. They're typically freelance phlebotomists, freelance collectors who have other work, other contracts, or other jobs that they're doing, and then they just make time to do my appointments, because most people, like myself and probably like all you guys, most people could use some extra side income. So they come in and do my appointments, and then I pay them for that.
Yeah, Donald, I think one of the last couple of times we talked, I was basically telling you how I was basically just using any labs as my phlebotomist. Like I just send any lab an email and they'll just take care of it. I developed that relationship. So I haven't had to use an independent phlebotomist yet, not yet, but I have had to use a couple of the independent just buccal swab collectors in the DDC portal, like once or twice. But I really just send folks to any. That's why, like you said, when you pick your cities, you also look and see if there's an AnyLab or ArcPoint or a Fastest Lab, and you check, and then you contact them and set that relationship and say, hey, can I send folks your way? Yes. Okay, cool, great. That's how you do it. But you, Raphael, in Boston, did you ever get around to contacting DDC Boston yet? Because there's a DDC location, I think.
Their phone system is terrible there. It's like hard to get through to them.
That's so.
I need to send an email out to the manager. I'm going to see if I can find a manager over there or something.
Yeah.
But I have ArcPoint labs near me.
Right. Two things I want to say real quick, guys, to speak to your point, Royal. Everybody's model can be different and will be different. I
Mhm.
mean, Royal, you tend to operate a little bit more like my friend in Denver. She relies on exam one for all of her collections.
Mhm.
So basically the way she works is she gets a customer calls, she sets up the appointment with the customer, she collects her deposit from the customer over the phone while she sets up that appointment. And then what she will do is she will contact Brett at RavGen,
Mm.
have Brett send a kit to exam one, and
Mm.
then the customer shows up on the day of the appointment at exam one to have their blood drawn. And then, so exam one takes care of everything. So
Mhm.
she doesn't, now she has her own business location too, where she does her legals, non-legals and stuff like that. But as far as all the prenatals, all of her prenatals go to exam one. You use any lab test now, Royal. I've used any lab test now in Atlanta before when I've had an issue, when my phlebotomist had an issue where she couldn't draw the blood for some reason, or she wasn't available and I had a customer on the hook who needed a blood draw on that day and my girl wasn't available. I may call any lab test now and send them over there and pay them $75 to draw the blood for me. So everybody's model is going to be different. I've tended to identify a phlebotomist in the area to partner with. Royal, you use any lab test now. My friend uses exam one. You just got to figure out which model works best for you. I'll give you another example. In Charlotte, I didn't go with a Regis. In Charlotte, I found out that the phlebotomist that I was using up there had her own office. So I said, well, I'll tell you what. I said, how much do you pay for your office rent? I said, where's your office? She told me where her office was. It was in some office building near the university area. I said, huh. I said, okay. Send me the address. She sent me the address. I went on Google, pulled up a picture of it so I could see what it looked like. It looked really nice and clean, looked like a nice area. So then I asked her, I said, well, how much are you paying for rent, if you don't mind me asking? She said, I pay $600 a month for rent. It's just one big room. She has a phlebotomy chair in there. She has all of her supplies, everything. I said, huh. I said, okay. I'll tell you what. I was about to sign the lease with Regis, which was right down the street. It just so happened to be right down the street from her office. I said, look, I'll tell you what, I was about to sign this lease with Regis, but you know what? You're a small business owner and I need a partner in town. I tell you what, how about I pay you $200 a month? And in exchange for that, we'll co-market your office as my office as well. I'll list your office address as my office address on my website and on all my marketing. And so when clients come in for their appointments, they'll be coming directly to your office and you'll service my clients at your office. And so I pay a third of her rent. I get to use her office as my office. It basically accomplishes the same thing that I was going to accomplish with Regis. And then also she doesn't have to go down the street to Regis to work my appointment. She can work them right there from her office. And so you come across these little situations where you kind of have to make a judgment call that may turn out to be a little bit better, little bit more effective of a call than you going about it the way you would have gone about it normally. So in Charlotte, I basically share office space with her and I cover a portion of her rent in exchange for her working my appointments. And I still pay her per appointment. So she gets the $200 a month for me for rent and she sends me a little Cash App invoice. I pay the $200 and then I also pay her per appointment, pay her $85 or whatever it is for the non-invasives. I pay her $85 for non-invasives. I pay her $50 for legals and I pay her $35 for non-legals. And so that is the arrangement I have with her.
Yeah.
So everybody's situation will be different. There is no one way of doing it. And that's probably another reason, Royal, that I haven't really just gone out there and blown up with 25 or 30 locations nationwide, because every city, every market, every situation is going to be different. So I want to make sure that I have some type of template that I'm using at all locations that works at all locations.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what Serge is dealing with right now out there in Baltimore. He'll tell you he's dealing with that market. It's interesting. Okay. Anybody else got any questions? I don't want to take up too much of Donald's time. If anybody, Ebony, you look like you took yourself off mute for a second, or Lauren.
I have a question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I'm pretty much in the beginner stages. So it's not really a crazy question or anything, but I heard y'all mentioning like different places that y'all work with. So I heard Exam One, and I heard you say a lab that I didn't recognize, Royal. How do you know what places you can work with? Like as far as like an Exam One or like an Arc Point, things like places like that. How do you know? Do you call and ask them something, or I'm not sure how that goes.
In my experience, Royal, I think sometimes you just have to call places and just talk to the owner or talk to the manager.
Yep.
Because all these even these franchises, they're all owned by different people. And even within the franchise world, where everything is supposed to be the same across the board, you find that some owners, because they're in business and they're trying to stay afloat and stay profitable, sometimes some owners are willing to do things that other owners aren't willing to do. So you may have some owners that say, yeah, we'll send them over. We'll draw their blood for $35. And some owners I've had some owners tell me, well, no, we don't, we have a phlebotomist, but we don't allow them to draw any blood for prenatal tests right now because we're using them for our COVID vaccinations or something. So, different, you just have to call people and just say, hey, I'm looking for a partner to work with on this. And I want to call and check with you guys, see if you guys would be interested, see if you guys can help me and how much you would charge. And, they'll say, typically, in most cases, you're reaching the person on the front line who's not the owner. And they'll say, let me check with my manager, let me check with my owner and call you back, or let me have my owner call you back. And they'll call back and, the owner will want to hear what you have to say, because every business owner wants to see if there's an opportunity for them to make more money. Okay. So they'll call, in most cases, they'll call you back just to see what you have to say and see if you're bringing something to them that's going to make them a little bit of money, add to their bottom line. So, so if you're finding that you can't, find a phlebotomist, a freelance phlebotomist to help you with your cases, then yeah, you may want to reach out to a local Exam One, or reach out to and Any Lab Test Now or an Arc Point Labs and just say, hey guys, can I send a client over to you guys just for a simple blood draw? They're going to bring the kit with them, or I'll drop the kit off that, tomorrow morning or whatever. And, in all likelihood, they'll be able to accommodate you.
Yeah. Usually if you check their websites too, sometimes those companies also offer paternity testing like as their own service too, as part of that franchise. So if you check their website, they already offer it. Any lab already offers it, but there's not any labs in every single state. I just Googled for LA, there's Exam Ones like crazy.
Yeah, I Googled it too and I saw that.
Yeah. So definitely just like what Donald said, just call them. Hey, I'm a private DNA agency owner. I'd like to send my clients to you. I'll provide the kits, or if you have kits on hand, I can give you a case number. How much do you charge for a legal? Oh, we charge X. Okay, cool. How much do you charge for a prenatal? We charge X. Okay, great. And then you just massage that relationship, just talk to them. And next thing you know, you're having Brett from RavGen send them kits and you never see the client and you collect $1,600 like it's nothing. So yeah, it'll happen.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
Every situation is different. Every application is different. Every scenario is different. Every market is different or has differences. So you just have to call around and figure out what's going to work for your business in that market. That's all you can do. And that's how you figure out what your niche is going to be.
If I could mention that just to piggyback off of that is, I think there was something in our Slack chat about, like pregnancy clinics and stuff like that. So I actually just emailed one the other day and she was just like, send me your brochure, send me your information. So I went to Canva real quick, pulled something together, sent it over to her. She goes, yeah, we can do this. So any clients that are pregnant for prenatals, then they want to come see me, they are an actual clinic, like not an abortion clinic, but to help them figure out what they want to do and stuff like that. But they also have doctors there, so they can be seen as well. So we're kind of throwing back our clientele, bumping them back and forth, and that's something that's really good to try.
Okay.
Good job, Ebony. Good job on that one. Seriously.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Does anybody else have any other questions? Lauren, do you have another question?
Yeah, I have one more question. This is always like driven me a little crazy in the Slack chat. So I always hear y'all say, like, if somebody gets a prenatal or something, you can get the kid sent to the get the kit sent to some place for them to basically get tested or whatever. How do you set their appointments if the kit isn't where they need to get tested at?
So what I do is, again, I use my own phlebotomist, right? So I usually send the kit to the phlebotomist. From time to time, I will send the kit to the customer, and then let the phlebotomist will go to the customer's residence. Or if they're being drawn at any lab test now or whatever, then the customer will just take the kit with them to the any lab test now. So, you know, you got to be careful, I guess, when sending kits out, because if you collect the money, chances are you're going to get the draw done some kind of way. You just need to know who's going to actually draw that blood. If you haven't collected the money, I'll be real careful about sending kits out if you haven't collected any money from anybody, because you don't want to start doing that. You don't want to start wasting kits and sending kits out and you haven't collected money, because if you haven't collected money, you haven't gotten a commitment from the customer, from the phlebotomist, or from anybody that test is going to get completed. But to answer your question, every application is different. You got to see what works for the customer, what works for you, and what works for the phlebotomist. And sometimes you can just ask the phlebotomist, or you can ask the customer what works best for you. And customer may say, yeah, I really need her to come to the residence, and then I'll be okay. So I got to find a phlebotomist who will come to the residence. Also, that's the other thing I was going to touch on. Royal mentioned, if you're having trouble finding places to get blood drawn, DDC. If you guys are selling DDC prenatals or any kind of DDC test, DDC, if you should have a login access to your portal, your corporate partners portal, and in that corporate partners portal, there's a link in there called Draw Sites, and that link basically tells you who has signed up and identified themselves as a draw site or as a phlebotomist or as a collector for DDC, and you can actually call that person. You can put in your zip code for where you need the draw to happen or where you need the collection to happen. And it will pull up a list of names and phone numbers of people who can provide services for you in that zip code. And you can call that person, find out how much they're going to charge you for a draw, and you can either do business with them or not. And so I've actually used that portal recently a couple times to find a collector for me in different areas where I've had to do a test off-site outside of the office. And so that's another resource that is available to you if you have an account with DDC, to where you don't have to, if you don't feel comfortable calling any lab test now, or if your any lab test now is not responsive to you, if there's no exam one that around that can help you out, then that DDC portal with that draw site link can be very useful for people who need help getting collections done and getting phlebotomy done.
You know what? Let's try this, Lauren. I'm gonna do something as we actually. This is kind of a segue into the sales call training part of this. So you're gonna see me do this live, Lauren. Okay, not with a real client. You're gonna be the client. Okay. So to answer your question, I'm actually gonna do this. So you're gonna be the client. You're gonna be the prenatal client. Okay. So you're gonna call me, and we're gonna go through the whole appointment thing. And I'm gonna use, by the way, I'm gonna use Great Helix. So this might go horribly wrong, or this might go great. Okay. So and this is gonna show you like I said, this is how I do it in my area, for me, because I already have my relationship with any lab. Okay. So you're gonna be a prenatal client in El Paso, Texas. All right. So the phone is ringing. All right. Phone is ringing, ring. I'm gonna answer the phone. So thank you for calling Assurance DNA. This is Roll speaking. How may I help you?
Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm calling because I need a paternity test.
Absolutely, yes, ma'am. So what type of paternity test are you looking for? Is the child already born, or are you currently pregnant?
I'm currently pregnant.
I see. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. So We offer two different types of prenatal paternity tests. They're the non-invasive, so it's just a blood draw from your arm and a mouth swab from the alleged father. So my question is, how soon do you want your results? Do you want them in 3 weeks, or do you want them faster, maybe 2 to 7 business days?
I'll do the 3-week option.
3-week option. Okay, got it.
Yes.
So yes, ma'am. So for that option, that the price for that is $1,399 total with tax. What you can do is you can put down a deposit of $300. That gets your appointment locked in. That gets you your blood drawn, the sample sent off to the laboratory. But you have to pay off the balance by the time the results are ready. Okay. If you don't pay off the balance, then your results won't be sent to you. The results are sent to you via the mail. The lab will contact you directly when the results are ready, and they will mail them to you. You can have an option to have them overnighted to you. How does that sound to you?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Lauren and the client.
Oh, this is
asking
Lauren.
the
Okay,
question.
sorry,
This is
we're
both.
breaking.
So when you do the prenatal, because I've heard 3 to 5 business days, but is that 3 to, is it, I've heard 2 to 3. Is that 2 to 3 after the blood is actually drawn?
So what it is it's once DDC or Ravgen receives the samples and they start testing, that's when that window of time starts.
Oh, okay.
So like I said, this is me. Donald may say something a little bit different, but for the DDC test, I say 2 to 7, because sometimes when DDC gets them, sometimes they turn those prenatals around fast sometimes. Or my last one, they did it in 7 business days. Okay. So I say window of 2 to 7. And then for the if they say, oh, I want to do a payment plan, or I want to do 3-week one, I say once the lab receives the samples after they're sent off, when you get your blood drawn, that's usually that's overnight. Then that's when that timeline starts of 3 weeks. And it's actually with Ravgen lately, it's been like 15 days. Is that the case for you too, Donald? Like if someone does a 3-week test, do they normally get you the results back in like 15 days or so ish?
It's between 15 days and 21 days. They've been a little bit faster, probably because they've had a little bit of drop off since they raised their prices. Because they raised their prices to the point their prices are now comparable with DDC's prices.
Yeah.
And we all know now DDC's test is AABB accredited.
Yep.
And it's only a 2-tube test. Yep. So now people are probably, and I'm guilty of it as well, steering a lot of their clients toward the DDC test as opposed to the Ravgen test, because it's an easier test to administer with the 2 tubes versus the 10 tubes.
Yep.
And it's also an accredited test as opposed to the Ravgen test being an unaccredited test.
They're just informational. Yeah, that's what I tell my clients too. I'll say, if you want to use the results for court purposes, legal purposes, this is the test that we offer. If you just only want to know, this is the test we offer. It's a little bit cheaper, but it's a payment plan, but it takes longer. So okay, so we're
back. Yeah, we're back.
Okay.
Real quick,
yeah, go ahead.
What's 2-2 mean? What is that?
2 tubes. So it means a DDC prenatal is 2 tubes of blood. That's what they collect. 2 tubes of blood from the arm. Ravgen is 10 tubes. As in, I asked the same question to Donald when he first told me about Ravgen. I was like, 10 tubes, as in like the metal 10. He was like, no. The number 10 tubes. That's how many tubes of blood they take from the lady's arm. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. All right.
Right. Yeah. So basically there are 2 labs that do the non-invasive prenatal paternity test. There's Ravgen, which basically I think they kind of sort of invented the test. And then there's DDC, which sort of has a competing product that they sort of resell from another lab. And Ravgen, for whatever reason, they require 10 vials of blood to complete the test. Whereas DDC only requires 2 vials of blood. So, so naturally one is going to wonder, why the hell should we sell a 10-tube test when we can just sell a 2-tube test? 10 tubes sounds like a lot. Most people, when they see the 10 vials, they freak out. Not most people, but some people, when they see the 10 vials, they freak out. And why would you want to put yourself or your phlebotomist through that much strain of having to try to get 10 tubes of blood from a person? Even though 10 tubes of blood will flow just as easy as 2 tubes of blood on most people, it's still just, why do a 10-tube test when you can do a 2-tube test? And the reason for that is because the only thing that's saving me right now and keeping me on Ravgen right now is the fact that they have that 3-week test, which is still cheaper than anything DDC offers.
If
By
DDC,
a couple.
I'm sorry, Donna, I didn't mean to cut you. I was talking to my
Yeah.
mom today. If DDC said, look, we will do informationals for $1,000 and do our legals for $1,200. Oh, I'm done with Ravgen.
That-
Easy
Yeah, that would
money
probably
right
put
there.
Ravgen out of business.
That'll put Ravgen out of business, but DDC, they're greedy. I don't know what they're doing with that.
Yeah, they're stuck on their pricing for the most part. But anyway, that's just to clarify the difference between the two. So I'll let you guys finish up with your scenario.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're back in it. You said you want the caller, Lauren, say you want the 3-week test. Okay. So now I'm going to go in and getting your information in and setting up your appointment. Okay. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. So, ma'am, let me go ahead and get your information, get it into our system so we can go ahead and set your appointment up. How's that sound?
That sounds fine.
Okay.
Mhm.
Can I get your email address, please?
Lauren Warner at ymail.com.
Okay. Lauren Warner at ymail.com. Okay. I'm not entering your real phone number, by the way. I'm just entering a bunch of numbers. Okay. Lauren, and you want the non-invasive prenatal. Okay. Got it. Okay. You should be getting an email from me shortly with that information. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and set your appointment. What day would you like to come in and get your blood drawn?
I would like to come in around April the 20th. I wasn't ready for the talk.
Yeah, it's okay. We can make up a day. We can make up a day.
Around April the 15th sounds pretty good to me.
Okay, got it. Hey, you know what, Lauren? And this is also a teaching point too. We actually, just to let you know, we actually don't do blood draws on Fridays. The reason being is that sometimes that blood that we draw from you won't get to the lab until Monday. And there's about a 3 to sometimes 5 day period where that fetal DNA from the baby starts to separate from your blood. And that might cause a redraw. So we only do the prenatals between Monday and Thursday so that it can get to the lab no later than Friday and it can start testing. Okay. We don't want any redraws to happen. By the way, that's happened to me a couple of times. That's why I say that. That's the time.
Okay.
All right. So how does April 14th work for you, Lauren?
Yeah, that works. That's fine.
Okay, April 14th. And what time? You can essentially go in at any time, but what time do you prefer?
I prefer around 11:30 a.m.
11:30 a.m. Okay, let's do that. 11:30 a.m. Okay. Lauren, go ahead and check your email. You should have gotten an appointment slip for that. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and send you an invoice in just a second for the price of this prenatal paternity test. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to pay that $300 deposit. You can either pay it over the phone now, or I have it set up in the invoice to where you can pay it through the invoice and you'll pay your balance off over time. In 3 weeks or 2-3 weeks, your results will be ready. If your balance is paid off, the lab will call you. If they're not, I will let you know that you still have a balance. And once it's paid off, I'll let the lab know and you're good to go from there. Okay. How does that sound?
Awesome.
Okay, great. Now your appointment is scheduled. It's scheduled at 211 North Kansas Street. That's where you're going to go to get your blood drawn. Okay. And we oversee and coordinate the entire process for you. So you have nothing to worry about. When you get to that location, they're going to already know who you are. They're going to draw your blood. You don't have to pay them anything. Everything's covered by us. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Do you have any other questions?
The client doesn't know.
Okay. The client doesn't. All right. So that's it. Now, Lauren, can you check your actual email to see if you got those emails from me? Because you should have.
Yep. I got all of them.
All right. That was with Gray Helix, by the way. So all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I tested that out.
Okay. Yeah, you did. You sure did. You sure did. So you saw how I did that, right? So, the appointment was set at that location. That location is where you get your blood drawn. That's all you have to say. Hey, your location is at this location here. This is where we're sending you. If they ask, well, how come I can't come to your office? You say, hey, look, we have a team of licensed phlebotomists that can draw blood. This is the location that we send our folks to. That's the folks that we have. Okay. And they'll say, okay. That's all they say. Don't be like, well, why not? They just be like, all right. And that's it.
So say if you were sending me to any lab, I always get that wrong. Any lab test or whatever it's called. Mm-hmm. Say you were sending me there, you wouldn't make the appointment while I was on the phone, would you?
Okay, good question. The reason why I like to use any lab is because generally you can go
You can
into
walk
any
in.
lab, you can walk in and get a test, period. Now here's what I did when I first started. I was using another collection facility that I found in DDC, and their hours were all over the place. So here's what I would do. They would call, they'll say, oh, I want an appointment on Thursday at this time. And I would say, okay, let me confirm with the collection facility. And I'd hang up the phone and then I'd call them back and they wouldn't answer and I just lose them. So I was like, man, how the hell can I find a place where you can kind of walk in and get tested? I found Any Lab. That's, like I said, that's my location. Any Lab has locations most places, but maybe Exam One or Arc Point, they can walk in too. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll call them on like Monday and ask.
Yeah,
about that.
and that's it. You just say you give them a time. And the thing is, they don't draw blood after 4:30 because FedEx comes and picks up their samples, I think at like 5 or 5:30, usually with some of those places, just depending on where you go. But yeah, I just say here's the location. It's Any Lab because they can walk in, and I did this today. I sold a prenatal yesterday, $1,700. And then I just emailed the manager at Any Lab and I was like, hey, we got somebody coming in at 4:30 on Monday. She was like, all right. And that was it.
And Royal, I want to speak to that point too. This is business 101 for me. Guys, always never leave money on the table. Always try to collect the money from the customer. I trust myself to give the customer back their money if I cannot complete their test for any reason, more than I trust the customer to call me back if I had to tell them, let me hang up and call you back. I need to check and see if I can do this appointment for you, blah, blah, blah. Because you got to understand, these customers, they probably have already called 2 or 3 people before they got to you, or they'll hang up from you if they sense any concern that you can't complete the test for them. They're going to call 2 or 3 people after they hang up from you.
Yep.
So always sound confident when you're talking to them. Go ahead and try to set the appointment if you can. I'd rather you set the appointment and collect the money and send them an appointment confirmation. And then I'd rather you do that and then call them back later and say, hey, we can't do the appointment on that day, or we can't do the appointment at all. I'm going to refund you your money. I'd rather you do that than to say, hey, let me hang up from you. I got you on the hook right now, but let me hang up from you. Let me check on some things, and then I'll call you back to book the appointment. Because chances are that lead goes cold. It goes from hot to cold, or can go from hot to cold really fast. And then you missed out on a potential $1,700 sale because you hesitated because you want to check with Any Lab Test Now or whoever to see if they can do the appointment for you. Just go ahead and book it and then try to set it up, try to set it up after the fact if you have to set it up. Like Royal said, in his case, Any Lab Test Now, they accept walk-ins. I think they prefer to have a little bit of a heads up, but for the most part, they accept walk-in.
Yeah. Yep. And like I said, I give my person I've developed a relationship with the manager in Any Lab. So like I said, I literally just email her. I give her at least a 24-hour notice at the very least. Hey, this person wants to come in. Because usually when they purchase a prenatal, they usually want to go like in the next 3 days or something like that, even if it's leading into next week. So I just send her an email and I say, hey, Jessica, this person wants to come in. Here's the case number. If it's a DDC, by the way, here's the case number. And this person wants to come in at this time. And she always just says, okay, cool. And then
how do you pay for it, Royal? How do you pay Any Lab Test Now?
She sends me an invoice after the customer leaves.
Yeah. Okay.
And
same here. Yeah.
That's how, like I said, that's how I do my test in Dallas. That's how I do my test in Raleigh. In Raleigh, there's 2 Any Labs in Raleigh, and I contact them and I say the same spiel that I said to introduce myself. And I'll say, hey, send me the invoice. And they're like, okay, cool. And as long as you send them invoices, you keep a good relationship with them, you're good. And also I learned in the very beginning when I was working with Any Lab out here, I was driving the test all the way across town at first. And then I got more advanced and I was like, wait a minute, I can tell DDC or Ravgen to just mail them.
Yeah.
And then one day Jessica was like, hey, guess what? I have kits on hand already for DDC. You never have to drop them off again. And I have not been to that Any Lab in 6 months. Like I see nobody. I just coordinate the whole thing. And they already have kits on hand. All I need to do is send them. Now Ravgen, I have to send them the kits, you know what I'm saying? Because they don't, but I just hit up Brett.
But you can still have Brett send those kits for you, and if you call him early enough in the day, he'll get the kit out same day, and they'll have the kit
Yep,
the
same
next
day.
day.
And send the tracking.
Because
And
the
I
thing
just
is,
say,
these labs want to sell these kits too.
Yep.
So if they see that there's a hot lead and an opportunity for you to sell a nip test of theirs, they'll get the kit out. Now DDC is a little bit slower than RavGen because RavGen is a smaller lab.
yep.
But most people have DDC kits on hand, and RavGen will get the kits out pretty quickly. So
Yep. And you just tell RavGen, I just say, hey Brett, can you send 3 kits to what is it, ALTN El Paso? They know exactly what it is. They already have they're like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Sending, here's the FedEx number, boom, and that's just it. So, but overall, that's how you do it, Lauren. I know that was kind of a long roundabout way of us explaining it, but that's how I do it. So, but
yeah, get the customer's money, guys. Get the customer's money. You can always.
I hear that.
If you screw up the appointment, or you find out you can't do the appointment, or you decide you don't want to do the appointment, you can always refund the customer back. But do not expect the customer to be waiting for you to determine whether or not you can help them, because those customers will move on. Get their money, complete the test. If you can't complete the test, refund the customer their money and move on, to the next customer. But just don't take any chances with that. Don't leave any money on the table.
Never.
I mean, I even tell my employees and my staff members, if you're unsure about what to charge, if you can't remember if we charge $17.95 or $18.95, charge $18.95.
Yeah.
and then get with me later, right? And if I determine that we've overcharged the customer, I'll refund the customer $100. I don't give a damn about that. I just want to close the case. I just want to get the deal. But don't undercharge, because then now I got to track the customer down. I got to see if they'll give me their credit card again, so I can get another $100 off of them. They're gonna be wondering, why did you tell me the correct price in the first place? You should honor that price, since that's the price you gave me. All that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So if you're gonna be honoring prices, honor the higher price or the too high price, and then refund the customer later.
Serge is laughing. Because Serge he records all his calls. And in the Slack channel that we have, he posted, if you don't mind me, Serge, if you don't mind me saying this, Serge, he posted one of the calls that he recorded in the Slack channel, and the lady asked him his price, and he just went radio silent for 45 seconds. And I was like, Serge, you gotta know your prices. And like what you just said, Donald, if you forget your price, it's $300. Just say something. Don't leave them hanging. Because they'll be like, who the hell is this? What kind of janky?
Overprice it. Overprice it. If you can't remember if it's 200 or 300, go with the 300. Go with the higher option. Yep. And if you look back at your price sheet later and see you overcharge that customer, then just get a customer that just say, hey, I just want to let you know we overcharged you. I'm going to refund you $50 or $100, whatever it is. Trust me, they will appreciate you for that. They will remember you for that, and they will refer you to somebody else because they figure you're honest.
Yep. Honest, operating square business, man. Square business. All right. I don't want to, unless y'all, like I said,
can I ask one more question?
Yeah, go ahead, Lauren. Go ahead.
Okay. So have you ever been in a situation where someone wanted a prenatal and you had to send a kit out, like from DDC, not RavGen, and you made an appointment, but the kit wasn't there? Has that ever happened?
Yeah, I think I'm sure that's happened. I think we've had a situation where the kit wasn't there when it needed to be. If you call customers and explain to them what's going on, most customers are understanding of that. Mm-hmm. And then if you top that off by saying, hey, look, the kit wasn't there, I apologize for that. If you're available tomorrow, we will overnight a new kit out to you. Okay. And I've gotten permission from management to discount you $50 off the case for your inconvenience. Mm-hmm. Because again, the idea is to keep the money on the table, even if you're getting less of it because you screwed up, right? Keep the money on the table. I'd rather still make $450 on a case that I screwed up than lose out on and make nothing, make zero, because the kit wasn't there. So the only downside for me at this point is, instead of me making $495 or $500, I'm only making $450. Okay. So yeah, I mean, yeah, things are going to always happen. Kits are going to get lost in the mail. They're not going to reach the customer in time. You know, you're going to draw, and then the kit may get delayed by FedEx.
That happened to me.
And
Yep.
yeah,
That happened to me the
and
other
yeah,
day.
and the blood may go bad, and you may have to do a redraw.
Yep.
Right, which means you got to pay the phlebotomist another $65-$85 to redraw for you. And so all those things happen. So sometimes you're not going to make as much money on your case as you thought you were going to make. But you know what you find is over time you make up all this stuff with volume. You
Yep.
know, but yeah, things are always going to happen. You just have to adjust to it and just try to correct it as best as you can and just move on.
There's been a
Can-
couple, Donald. There's been a couple of times where I called you like, oh, Donald, can you overnight a kit please to this place? Because you would tell me, you like, hey, Roll, I got kits on hand. If you're in like in an emergency situation, I got you. Just call me. And there's been like 2 times where I was like, Donald, oh shit, I got somebody wants a prenatal and they already paid. And can you? It worked out in the end. So here's the thing. Here's what I do. Okay, here's what I do. Like I said, I have my locations: El Paso, Dallas, Raleigh. Okay, Dallas, I know more people actually want Ravgen tests in Dallas. I just know that over time. So what I do, I have a specific AnyLab, and I hit that AnyLab up. Everyone, I'm like, hey, how many Ravgen kits do you have on hand for me? They were like, oh, we have 2. Okay, cool. I don't like to keep them under 2, or I like to keep them at least having 3 at a time. So they have, I check inventory. I call them and check inventory, and I'll hit up Ravgen. Hey, Brett, send 1 more. Okay. That's it. So that's what I do now. Like I said, if it's a situation where you have a test and somebody is in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and you've never dealt with that before, like what Donald said, lock in the money. And like at some of those places, if you go on that DDC portal, they usually already have DDC kits on hand. They already have prenatal legal kits already usually on hand. You just ask them, do you have kits on hand already? Yes, we do. That solves that problem. If they want a Ravgen test, you just say, hey, you know what? You want to test tomorrow, right? Yeah. Hey, we're kind of booked. So how does Thursday sound? That gives you enough time to get Brett to send a freaking Ravgen kit to Green Bay, Wisconsin. But always get the money. Get that freaking deposit.
Always get the money.
It's flexecution. Flexecution.
Yeah, and you're going to always run into issues. I just had to do a refund for $15.95 to a patient because DDC, we had to do 4 draws on them. 4 draw, the original draw, and then 3 redraws. DDC had us redraw them 3 times, and they still did not get a result. And so I called the client. Obviously, the client, I mean, you can only BS the client for so long, right?
Yeah.
So I called the client. I said, well, I just basically, what do you guys want to do? I said, I can still get this done for you. I'll just do it through a different lab. Or if you guys don't want to do it anymore, I'll be happy to refund your money. And they finally said they wanted a refund. The first 3 times, the first 3 redraws, they tried to ask for a refund. And I kept saying, well, look, we're so close. I know we'll get the result on the next one. Just give me one more chance, blah, blah, blah. And I talked them into letting me redraw them, but I did not know that DDC was going to keep asking for more redraws. So what you'll find is some patients are just not good candidates for the non-invasive test for whatever reason. Either they don't generate sufficient quantities of fetal DNA, despite how far along they are in their pregnancy, or they just, for whatever other reasons, for whatever unknown reason, they just their body or their pregnancy doesn't respond well to the DEC test. I don't know what it is, but the bottom line is I had to refund her $15.95. But you know what? That same day, I had a walk-in non-invasive prenatal test. The girl came in. She wanted to do the 3 to 5 day turnaround through DDC, which I charged $17.95 for. Plus, she wanted to do the peekaboo test, the gender reveal.
That's the upsell.
So I charged her another $150 for that. So basically, it ended up being like a $1,900 sale on the same day that I had to refund that other girl $15.95. So my point is, you just got to keep grinding, keep hustling, and everything will work itself out and even itself out. Ultimately, you can't sit there and boohoo and cry over having to refund somebody $1,500. And I cried over having to refund it because I had already spent that money. I did that girl's test originally. I took that money originally a month ago. But here we are 4 redraws later, and still can't get it done, you can't keep the person's money because you weren't able to provide the services to them.
Yeah.
So I had to go, into my savings and refund her $15.95, and it hurt. It still hurts. But I mean, you got to do it. You're also going to get scammed from time to time. I just got scammed recently, Roy. I hadn't talked to you about this
Really?
because this just happened. Yeah, I had a client file a dispute on both of their credit card charges. The original, the first half of the payment that they made when they first set up the test, or they first came in for the test, and then the second half of the payment they made when they got their results. They filed a dispute through the credit card. I found out later on that the guy who came in for the test used somebody else's credit card, and that other person filed the disputes on their own credit card. So now I called the guy. I didn't think the guy was going to answer. I thought the guy was just going to ghost me. He probably still will ghost me, but I called the guy. I said, hey man, look, the card you used, the charges were disputed as fraudulent charges. And so we're about to be out, $1,700. And I'm gonna need you to come and bring us another payment method, or bring us cash or something. So the guy said he's coming in on Monday with cash. So we'll see if he actually shows up with the cash on Monday, because I know that the Discover card is gonna reverse those charges, and that $1,700 is gonna come out of my account.
That must have been at your Atlanta location. Those Atlanta cats are known for scamming.
That's the Atlanta location. In fact, I Googled the guy's name because the guy had a unique name. So I Googled the guy's name, and the guy had a mugshot for some assault charges or something he got arrested for. So, he ain't the most savory guy in the world already. And then now on top of that, he has scammed me by using somebody else's credit card. I don't know if he stole the card. He claimed that he used the person's card, and he had an agreement with the person that he was going to pay them back cash for letting him use the card. But I think he stole the person's card to do this test, and he was playing, and he knew the whole time that that the person was going to dispute the charges, and then we would get left hanging with the bag.
Wow.
So that's our first time something like that has happened. Stuff happens. You just got to be careful. Yeah, it's business. You got to be careful. You got to have a loss reserve set aside for stuff like this. Just some money set aside in your savings or whatever. Because if you're like me, as these sales come in, you're going to be using that money as soon as it comes in. Okay. So, but you got to set some money aside, so when you have stuff like this happen, you can afford those little hits, because they're going to happen. That's just part of being in business.
For sure. Donald, like I said, unless anybody has any other questions, I can stay on. I can do this all night. I'm cool. I don't know what your schedule is, Donald, or what anybody else's schedule is. I'm here if y'all want to ask any questions or anything like that. But yeah, I appreciate it, Donald. I really do. I mean, like I said, you've given a lot of game. You're the one to introduce me to Ravgen. I didn't even know what they were. So and I've spoken highly of you to the students before. Serge was the one to be like, hey man, you be talking about the dude all the time. Could you get him on a call one day? And I was like, yeah, sure. So thank you. I really appreciate you coming on, man, and giving us this good game, man. Seriously.
No problem, man. And just let me know when the next call is, and if I can jump on it, I will. And otherwise, you guys, good luck, and keep your heads up, keep pushing through, keep forging ahead, and just try to make it work. And again, just always remember the marketing. We still didn't talk a whole lot about the marketing. We probably need to talk about that on a future call.
Yeah.
But just remember, everybody's business model is going to be different. Everybody's situation is going to be different. So, and just keep trying different things until you figure out what sticks.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it, Donald.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
Donald. We appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Like I said,
Okay.
I'll hang on for a couple minutes. If y'all, whatever y'all want to do is whatever. Y'all want to talk about anything. Nika, you're welcome. You are welcome. I think this is your you just bought the course the other day, right? And this is your first kind of call or foray into this. So I'll hang around for a couple minutes.
All right. Nobody has anything else for me. I'm going to drop off.
Yeah, no. All right. Thank you, Donald. Peace, man. Thank you.
Okay. No problem, guys. Have a good night.
All right, bye-bye. Yeah, hey man, that's the game, right? That's the dude right there, man.
Yeah. I got to start collecting this money up front.
Get that money, man. Yeah, that's what he told me.
Make it happen.
What did Young Dolph say? Rule number 1, get the money. Rule number 2, don't forget to get the money. Okay? Do not forget to get the money. Don't be hesitating, Serge. You better, hey, they ask you, how much is this? $2,000. Just say it. Say something.
That's what I'm about to do. Same thing with I lost a sale today for infidelity because I forgot the process. While I was talking to him, I was looking it up, and he was like, "Hey, what's different ways to get the test done?" And I was like, fumbling through it. I was like, "Yo, listen, sir, I'm gonna call you back. I'm gonna reach out to my lab, figure this out." Called him back. He answered, but then he was kind of busy, so he's like, "Can you call me back?" I didn't call him yet, so
Then it kind
of missed opportunity on my part. Yeah.
That test is a little weird. I've had to do the same thing before. Like be like, you know what? Hold on real quick. And I call the lab. They do some weird shit. They if the client provides the sample, whatever the sample, it might be semen on a piece of clothing or something. Yeah.
So they have the semen, but that's either yes or a no. There's nothing else after that. And then there's DNA detection.
Comparison. Yep.
Detection for either man or woman, and then they have one just for men. And then from there, they do another test for the comparison.
So, yep. And they charge you each. I think they charge either whatever the non-legal rate.
Yeah, like 150, 125, and then the semen is like 95.
Yep. So I charge straight up. If anybody wants info, I just do that. It's $400. You know what I'm saying? That just covers everything, and I keep my profit. But I don't get those calls like that. Like I said, like what Dylan said, every area is different.
I feel like I've gotten almost every single call you could get. For real. I've got the infidelity. I got prenatals, grandparent. I've got uncle, one call.
The siblings. Yeah,
all that. Deceased. We get a lot of those.
Dude, hey, just like what Donald said, man, stay consistent. This dude, he didn't tell me that he might be hitting 700,000 in sales this year. I mean,
oh shit,
that's a smart dude. Yeah, you didn't come. You came on the call shortly after he said that. I don't think he's lying. He showed me his profit and loss from last year. It was 365. I think he pocketed about 90 or like 110 or something like that. And then actually, let me stop recording. Hold on real quick.